Hello, my name is Annika Lundqvist, and I'm the founder of Pedestrian Space. And we are working on a sustainable urbanism and planetary health curriculum at Pedestrian Space. It's meant to be a multi-generational approach to learning about, co-learning about, educating about issues of urban resilience. And for 2027, we are planning an urban heat pilot to deep dive into the critical issue of urban heat that's affecting urban communities all over the world, increasingly so. As part of that, we recently put a call out for collaborators, and I'm sitting here with Dylan, who is one of the people who responded to the call. And before we started recording, we've been having a really interesting discussion about his own background. He recently completed his master's in philosophy of Southern Urbanism, Urban Studies program with the African Center for Cities at the University of Cape Town. So I've really been enjoying hearing about Cape Town, hearing about the climate, also the very specific urban context and history. So I wanted to hop on and record a bit with you to capture also these moment in time, first conversations related to the pilot, but also much more. So yeah, if you would please share a bit about the program you finished and also your research.
Yeah, thank you. So the program at the African Center for Cities is kind of an interdisciplinary program for people from different disciplines, different backgrounds. There were people who studied geography, people who studied architecture. I came with a background in economics, and it's kind of grounding urban theory, which is traditionally based in European or American contexts. It's grounding that theory in the realities of the global South and the stories that uh, shape Africa, Asia, and Latin America, and the the kind of informality that often characterizes the global South. When something doesn't work in Europe, there's often a formal mechanism, but in the global South, there is things will just um, things will just kind of be solved informally um, through uh, whatever means necessary, whether the resources are there or not.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, we were talking a lot about the global south, and I appreciate that focus at the African Center for Cities that, grounds urban theory in the global south as opposed to the global north. You also shared quite a bit before we started recording about the spatial landscape and legacy of Cape Town. Would you be willing to share a bit more on that too?
Yeah, so the spatial story of Cape Town and South African cities in general is quite unique in that it was designed to be spatially unequal during the years of colonialism and then the years of apartheid that followed and only ended just around 30 years ago. And so that footprint is still largely intact. And as such, like the city of Cape Town, for example, unlike maybe many cities of the global north, as you leave the city center, so the population density increases. And so many people are kind of relegated to living on the peripheries. And so the story of public transport is very interesting to me because the role of transport is to bring people from the periphery to the center every day. And that comes with a lot of complications, especially with quite a disjointed public transport system. There are also concerns around affordability and the concept of multimodality in transport is commonplace in South Africa and in Cape Town. And generally, the pedestrian experience can be quite difficult in many places, and people often fear for their safety. But there are often solutions people come to, such as walking in groups, or they're members of communities who walk with people who are commuting. Um, but yeah, that spatial legacy is very much intact, and I think a lot of the solutions going forward need to address like some of the deeper uh, issues.
And congratulations, you just finished your master's. So your research was on domestic workers, especially first and last mile. Could you share a bit about that as well?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so my research was on domestic workers in Cape Town and their first and last mile transport experiences. So, with this kind of disjointed transport system that I've been talking about, um, domestic workers tend to occupy quite a vulnerable socio-economic position in society as they're predominantly women, predominantly Black women, and predominantly living on the peripheries. And so, the first and last mile kind of covers those parts of the journey at the beginning and at the end between the main modes of transport. And they tend to be the least catered for parts of the journey and often the most challenging. So if a domestic worker takes a train to get to work, they need to find a way how they get to the train station. Or if they take a minibus taxi, as many people do, how do they get to the minibus taxi rank or the minibus taxi station? So often that involves walking, whether it's for 5 minutes, it can still be very dangerous and very stressful. Um, and yeah, the case for domestic workers and many workers in Cape Town and South African cities is that people have to get up extremely early at like 4 in the morning to stand in a queue at a minibus taxi rank for up to an hour or maybe more and sit in crazy traffic because our city is very car dependent. Um, and yeah, it's kind of a hidden talking point. It's not really, it's just kind of taken as given. But I really think that it's kind of a structural issue that needs addressing urgently.
Yeah, that's well, thankfully there's you and others who are working on this issue. As you said, it's a hidden issue, so people like you doing the research you're doing and the work can help uncover that. And also you bring such a solutionary energy and approach. Um, Now to tie it up, because you did write to me, responding to the urban heat pilot I put out, but of course, I'm the founder of an organization that's dedicated to walkability. I mean, we have so many intersecting interests. And but I would like to bring it home to urban heat, to that connecting point that we had, because it also connects to everything you were talking about. And then also in the South African context, can you share, a snapshot in time right now? How does urban heat play a role in all of this?
Well, urban heat is a problem for every country in the world, and if it isn't yet, it will be. So, in the South African context, we've obviously um, we've got a lot of issues with electricity and sustainability of our kind of energy generation. We've had lots of problems with electricity in the past uh, few decades. And similarly, we've also got water sustainability issues. This past winter in Cape Town has been the driest on record, if I'm not mistaken. And so the issues related to kind of climate change are felt by the most vulnerable and the most kind of um, poor of countries in the world. And so um, it's all very well when there are issues to do with heat in European countries. You may have access to air conditioning or to uh, a large amount of energy and electricity and so on. But in Africa and in South Africa and in Cape Town, um, often the poorest of the poor don't have access to um, any kind of shielding from the harshest effects of heat. Um, yeah,
just out of curiosity, because I'm not aware, but is Cape Town, is urban heat intensifying, or is it sort of kept at?
There, there is like a long-term desertification of the western part of South Africa that will happen over the next 50 years or something. I'm not an expert on that, but I do think that the heat problem will intensify for sure. Um, and yeah,
Okay, a lot of intersecting, difficult but also really interesting issues. And again, I'm really happy to talk with people who not only recognize problems but also the urgency with which we need to confront them and help to solve them. So I'm really happy to talk with you. This is a snapshot from our very first talk, and I look forward to collaboration. Thank you.
thank you.